Hello and welcome to another edition of the Skycast, the sort of Sky Sports Fantasy Football version of the FPL focused Scoutcast. Joining me to look ahead to game week 16 in Sky is Luke. Luke, how are you?
I'm good, Joe. I'm good. Feeling refreshed after the international break. I don't know if you're looking forward to it as much as me for it to start back up again.
Well, sort of. I don't know. I think with these international breaks, it's sort of it's annoying at first, but as it goes on, it's a nice welcome break. Really, you can take a bit of stock and think and look at the Sky game and the FPL game and all the different versions that people are playing and think, well, is this time perhaps make a change? Have a good think about things. And it's handy in Sky because there's no market, so there's no fear of players rising and falling. So the international break for Sky is quite nice, really. You can have a good old think. So this is where we are, having a good old think about what to do next. We've got game week 16 coming up next, and looking at the fixtures. I'll just put the fixtures up here. Game week 16. A lot of choice, I think. So there's lots of choice for captaincy on the Saturday. Then we've got Sunday, Sheffield United against Manchester United. Ollie Poole is one of our members of the community asking us questions, has asked who have we got planning to get in for that Sunday, and he says, I don't think I'm going to waste a transfer on that. Meanwhile, on Monday, we've got Newcastle versus Villa. Should we be spending a precious transfer on players for that? Before we look ahead to some other issues like our second teams and winter planning and those types of things, let's just look at the fixtures we've got ahead. We've got 3 potential captaincy days. What do you think of these fixtures? Who are you captaining on the Saturday? Is it worth bothering with the Sunday and the Monday fixtures?
Yeah, it's a tough one for Saturday, isn't it? I don't have Vardy, so that is kind of taken out of the equation for me. However, I would have thought that quite a lot of people will be looking at him just because of how good Leicester have been. How consistent he's been. He's obviously on penalties, and I think Brighton have got both their centre, or at least 2 of their 3 centre halves out potentially.
Yeah, potentially there. Yeah, their backup is Duffy, so not bad.
Yeah, so he's obviously he's still a good defender, isn't he? I think so. I would have thought people would probably be looking at him as an option. However, like I say, I don't have him, so for me, it's kind of between Mane and Sterling. Now, I've been here several times over the course of the season with Sterling, as I'm sure a lot of you guys have in Sky and FPL, where it seems like it's going to be a good idea to captain him. However, it just doesn't seem to work out for him at the moment.
No.
I've currently split it between my 2 teams, and I have one on Sterling and one on Mane, and I've got Sterling in my main team, so I guess I am favouring him slightly just because he's got the home fixture. However, I probably think Mane is probably safer given his form right now, and obviously Chelsea are a better team than Palace, although they maybe not defensively. But you would expect that Liverpool would just routinely win that Palace game. I think, given how they seem to routinely win every game.
I'm gonna flag up one of our FPL videos and podcasts because it's of great use to this exact quandary that we're facing in Sky, which is who to captain.
Help me out
on that Saturday. Well, that has shown. Have a look at it. It's the captaincy video we did this week. Have a look at it on the video of the podcast. Myself and David were having a chat, looking at the stats there. Brighton are actually very, very good defensively at home. Yes, they're going to have a slight change of personnel at centre back, but as a unit, they are very effective. So I'm less keen on Jamie Vardy. However, Crystal Palace have actually been very lucky not to concede more at home. So they're in fact sort of worse than we thought. So for me, I like the look at Mane for this one and less on Vardy. But yeah, as I said, worth looking at that, whether you're a Sky or an FPL manager. So something to be considered. Lots of choice on the Saturday. What about these Sunday and the Monday fixtures? If you haven't got any of these players, is it worth getting them in? And if you have got any of them, are there any good captain shouts those days?
This is again just a massive teaser in Sky, and it always has been. I mean, last week we said the Norwich Watford game probably not worth covering unless you were looking to bring in a player for like a longer term, not just on that. And the one name we kind of mentioned might be an option is Delafeu.
Yeah.
we'll get into it later, but I actually picked him in my second team and captained him, which came in for, I think, something like 28 points or something ridiculous, a really large amount. So that kind of shows you that it can work out. However, more often than not, it doesn't. And when I look at that Sheffield United Man United game, probably the one player I'd really want is actually the goalkeeper of Sheffield United, who obviously won't be able to play. Because Pope's not, I mean, he did well this week, but he's not been great overall, and Sheffield United have some good games coming up. And I think he's still the top scoring keeper in the game. So it kind of would be the perfect time to make that swap. But obviously he's not going to play. So for me, Sheffield United and Man United have got reasonable. I mean, Sheffield United got some really good games actually after that, and Man United have got kind of a mixed bag, but generally good. The only other person I'd probably be tempted by would be actually Rashford. I think that he's actually better than Martial in Sky, basically because of the number of shots he takes. But he's actually got 3 double-digit hauls in his last 4 games, Rashford. So he has got that potential to score big. He takes a lot of shots, so he often gets tier 1 shots. He's obviously on penalties, although that's not always a good thing with him. So I would be tempted to go Rashford if anyone, but I'm still swaying towards nobody for that one currently because I don't want Rashford long term. So I'm outie.
I've got. We talk about second teams now. In my second team, I've got Martial. I got in last week, and did me okay. Got the points coming in. And he'll be my captain in my second team for that day. But it's a bit annoying. You've said that about Rashford now. Perhaps I should have looked at that a bit closely. But I've made my Martial bed. I'm going to lie in it on that one. But we'll talk more about second teams later. What about that Villa-Newcastle game? Now, some of us, myself included, got Gilbert knocking around. Obviously, if you got him, captain him for that. But is it worth getting anyone in, or is there any other better options for that game?
I would say if you've got no one, it's probably best to leave it again. I don't think Villa's games are great afterwards. They're pretty horrible, actually. Newcastle's are okay, but I wouldn't touch a Newcastle player, to be honest with you. No. He stinks of another transfer out later on. So I think if you've got no one, I probably would ignore. Gilbert's perfect for this. That's kind of the reason why we had him, is for these, just to have that variety in player, and he's obviously super cheap. He hasn't been doing that great points-wise of late, and we expected him to be getting tackles regularly, given his record. I think it was in the French league he was in. He was averaging well over 2 or 3 tackles a game. It's not really come to fruition. However, he's obviously so dirt cheap. He just has to be taken to the pitch to be worth it in your team, to obviously what he enables elsewhere. So if you've got him, it's gonna be a captain. And there's one other time when we needed to captain Gilbert, and Villa had a single match day earlier in the season, and he actually got a clean sheet in that game. So he did his job basically. So I would certainly be captaining him if you've got him. The only other sort of name that should be mentioned, I guess, is McGinn, because he's actually top of the scoring charts in midfield, which says a lot about midfielders in Sky Game, I think, more than anything else. But he is an option to bring in because obviously he's high owned and he is the top scorer. So I could see why you would want to do that. However, the games are that bad that I wouldn't really do it just for this one game. I'd say if you want him because you like him as a player and coverage moving forward, and it makes sense for your structure, then why not now? But if you're just looking for points on that one individual day, probably not.
I mean, you make a good point there about it's obviously you're not getting in for that one day. You're looking ahead to the fixtures and think, are they? Would I play them? Well, you've got to play them in Sky, but would I want to play them for the up and coming games? So it's a good way of having a look at something that some people would call a mess, and that's just having a look at the fixtures coming up over the next few game weeks there. And we can see, in this sea of red for bad, blue for good, but we can see there with Aston Villa, they got Newcastle, but then Manchester United and Chelsea, Leicester, Sheffield United, tough game as well, and then finally game week 18, Southampton. So it's not until game week 18 where it starts to get better. I was having a look at fixtures, throughout Christmas as well, and Villa, it does turn from game week 18, it gets better, but it just now doesn't seem, it's not begin time for me personally, and I think I'm just going to stick with my Gilbert. I mean, I've got him, I'll have him, and if I didn't have him, I probably would, as you said, I'd probably ignore it because transfers are starting to be whittled down, and I don't really want to be risking that on a McGinn that I don't really want to play for a while there. But looking at the fixtures going ahead, I mean, I've got game week 13 to 18 on the screen. We can see there that Leicester, Liverpool looking great. Chelsea, once City out the way, look great. And then there's likes of say there's some tricky ones as well. So like some Bournemouth, for example, looking pretty bad. Brighton looking pretty bad. And then there's some nice ones as well. So Southampton have got quite nice fixtures. But from you, are there any in Sky? It's important, these single match days, Monday games, Friday games, those types of things. Have you looked ahead and anything stand out? Any 2-for-1s, or is it not a great time?
Yeah, it's quite strange really at the moment in Sky. There isn't very many 2-for-1. There's basically none that I'd want to take on board at the moment, because generally when you're doing these 2-for-1s, you want to be looking at your premium assets from your good teams that are in form. You want obviously people that are going to return points, not just the fact that they've got 2 games. So obviously we're looking at the moment at the likes of Chelsea, Leicester, Liverpool. They seem to be the 3 sort of main teams that are in form, and there's pretty much no 2-for-1s involving these teams for quite a while. The first sort of time when this pops up onto the radar for me is when Liverpool have their blank. Is it due to the World Club Cup? I think it is.
It is. It's game week. Well, in FPL, it's game week 18. I guess that's, what are we, 2-3 ahead in Sky? So yeah, look out for those.
Yeah. So whenever that happens in Sky, whatever the game week is, I think it's 20 or 21, something like that. And Liverpool obviously don't feature. There are quite a few. There's even I think there's ones involving Spurs, which is a 4-1 for a Liverpool player, and there might be an Everton one as well, which you could consider. But obviously Spurs not in great form either. But when you're looking at 4 games to 1, and you've got someone like Harry Kane as captain for 4 games, you would be very unlucky, I think, for him not to outscore or be worth the transfer just for the sheer volume of games during that. And obviously Kane's one of these guys who he's probably going to play every single minute of every single one of those games. So that looks a pretty smart move to me. However, that's quite further down the line. For now, it's more just these single match days, which we've obviously got 2 of this week. And then moving forward, it's basically Arsenal that are the standout guys, unfortunately, because they've not been great, have they? But most of us are sat with Aubameyang, but it's kind of, we're waiting for these games to move out of the way and keep Aubameyang. The only other one is 16th of December is Palace versus Brighton, which a cheeky move for Patrick Van Arnehol, or if you've got Dan Burn instead of Gilbert as your cover, might be enough, because Palace have also got very good games after that. So that's the only other guy that I probably would be looking at, Patrick Van Arnehol, moving forward at some point, maybe if I can bring him in. That's dependent on how Palace are looking, though, because obviously they started reasonably solid and then kind of tailed off of late. So one to monitor, I think.
The next 6 fixtures coming up, so I mean on the screen it says game week 13, but that's FPL terms. But in Sky we're in game week 16 here. So looking ahead with Palace as well, it could be worth getting Patrick Van Arnold in now, even with Burnley, Bournemouth, Watford. You mentioned the Brighton game, and also Newcastle coming up. There's a nice run of fixtures. I think we've got a question on that coming up. Looking at looking further ahead and looking at the how we're going to form our team with striker slots, and possibly investing a little bit more in these more, I suppose, differential defender choices as well. So could be a good move there. I mean, just before we move on to bonus kings, anything else to flag up around the fixtures?
No, I think we've covered it all. It's an unfortunate weight on Arsenal, really, and most of your big guns that everyone's got, Liverpool, Chelsea, Leicester, do the job on nearly every other match day for now. So we'll just wait for the Christmas chaos, where there'll probably be a little bit more intrigue around that area.
Yes, definitely. Okay, well, let's have a look at some bonus kings, really. I mean, the usual names. It's quite good to keep track. Don't need the exact numbers here. We just need the people, and they're getting the bonus in a variety of areas. Sionju rather, at Leicester, looking great as ever. The Chelsea intriguing Jorginho and Kovacic is a bit annoying within the Sky game, because maybe, I don't know, it could be an option. We'll come to midfield options in a bit, but yeah, there could be options. Tomori as well, I know a player that you'd like, and of course Zuma. Chelsea. So Chelsea really doing well, and they've got good fixtures coming up. But yeah, what about in terms of bonus? Any of these players that you've got your eye on still, or any others as well we should mention?
It's just Soyuncu and Tomori, I think, are your go-to guys for definite at the moment. They're both around the same price, I think, 6.2, 6.4, I think, from memory. So very cheap, obviously in some of the top teams in the league in the moment, in top form with great fixtures, and they also get bonus. So I think those two should really make up part of our teams. I don't have Tamori, and I really, really want to get him in. So I need to try and address that if I can. Apart from that, it's just the monitor on Jorginho. Like we said last week, he's still stacking up those numbers, and there are quite a few failures in midfield at the moment in the Sky game. So as unsexy as he might be as a pick, he might actually fill a role at some point.
Yeah, no, I mean it's yeah. Looking ahead, as you said about the midfield options, we mentioned McGinn. Then I mean, he's a player that I actually removed some weeks ago because I didn't like the fixtures, and he hasn't been fantastic. So I haven't minded that. But yeah, I'm still looking at players like Mount. I've got. I mean, it's a good way of having a look at your team. So we mentioned about fun with second teams as well, and you've obviously done very well last game week with Richarlison and Delafeu there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a picture of your main team really. So just gives an idea of sort of where you're at really. So with that, you've got Alisson in goal. You've got Alexander Arnold. You've got Sionchu, Gilbert, Robertson, De Bruyne, Mount, McGinn, and you've got Mane, Aubameyang, and Sterling. But if we were to look at your second team, so we'll still keep that one up on the screen, and we'll move to your second team as well. So we can see there's some differences there. And the key ones really, so you've got Pope in goal, so you saved a tiny bit of money there. You've got Pereira alongside Sionchu. You've got Richarlison, Delafeu in midfield. And then the front line's pretty similar as well. So just take us through what you're thinking in terms of the next game week, in terms of moves you're making, and also bring in what about this second team as well. I think people forget about that because in Sky you can have two teams and you can have a bit of fun with the second one. So yeah, what are your plans, main team and second team?
Yeah, so I've played this different in different seasons, to be honest with you. But usually I kind of match my teams together and usually split the captains, and they usually have the same players in. However, this time I felt like midfield's gone a bit stagnant in Sky, and I mean De Bruyne's a good example. I think he's got one assist in his last like 5 or 6 games, something like that. So actually, yeah, I've got his points up here. So since his 17-point haul against Watford, which is obviously very, very good, he's got 5 points against Everton, 0 against Wolves because he didn't play, then 2, 5, 4, 2. So he's not getting the passing bonus. He's very, very expensive, and his games aren't great. So he's in my A team, where it's kind of like my play safe team, where I think the vast majority of people have got him, and that's same can go for Mount and McGinn. They're very safe picks that everyone seems to have. And I've kind of used my second team to have a little bit of fun in the midfield area, because I kind of identified that as being just pretty much a lottery at the moment. And Delafeu, the captain, it worked out great, nearly 30 points from him, and then straight away captain for Richarlison the next day, who is also the top scorer midfielder alongside McGinn, surprisingly. I mean, I think he's only got 2 or 3 goals this entire season. I think it's something like that. But he's just so high on the points because he just keeps getting these shot tiers, tackles. He gets surprisingly man of the match. I mean, Everton have been mostly dreadful this season, but there he is right at the top. So I think you can have a little bit of fun in midfield, and that's what I've been doing in my second team, which is now overtaken my first team. It's like 30, 40 points ahead of it. I was
just going to ask you that. 30, 40 points ahead?
Yeah, so I'm actually doing much better in the team. I'm taking more risks, which is interesting. So given my style in FPL of taking risks, I might have to make that my main team and switch it over on the pod to make it more interesting.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. No, I've done that in previous seasons. My season where I remember finished in the top 100, my best season yet, and that was a similar thing happened. My second team, by this stage, just became my main team because of those risks. So sometimes in Sky, I don't like to take risks in FPL, but in Sky sometimes I quite like it. It's quite fun. And what could be more fun than getting 60 points from 2 players, 2 really low-owned players as well, not very popular amongst a lot of the top players. So yeah, brilliant rank rises there. Anyone else on your radar in terms of players to bring in? Any sort of future Richarlisons or Delafeus?
I don't think so. I think Richarlison is still an interesting one despite his game. So I may look at him instead of De Bruyne, for example, in my main team, just because he's quite exciting. Madison's really highly owned at the top, and I don't have him. He's sort of causing me issues every week. And the only other name is similar to FPL, I guess. Is Pulisic. He's 10.1 million, so around the same price as Richarlison. Obviously has those great games, and is extremely explosive. The sort of worry I have with Sky is we don't have a bench, whereas with FPL we do. And with Pulisic, you feel a bit more safe having him in your team in that game, I think. In Sky, if he gets rotated for Hudson-Odoi, you're obviously getting 0 points. So it's one of those ones that I might end up doing in my second team rather than my A team, and probably regret that I didn't do it in my A team. But he's probably the only name that I'm looking at outside of the obvious Madison and people like that.
Yeah, that's something similar to I'm looking at both FPL and Sky. But as you said, probably my second team. So I'll just about my main team. So it's trucking along at 8,000 in the rankings. I've got 29 transfers left, which I'm okay with. At this time I've got Pope, Robertson, Alexander-Arnold. So thanks for your tip on doubling up on them. Good luck to Robertson's injury. I hope it gets better. Sionchu there, bonus Lord. Gilbert, well, cheeky captain for some days. De Bruyne, Madison, I love everywhere. He's just great. Mount, he's on iffy ground. Vardy, Aubameyang, and Mane. Aubameyang maybe to go, but as you said, those single game days look too lucrative. So I'm going to put on my second team as well. So we're talking about fun with second team. So I can see this is where the dullard in me comes out. I'm meant to be having fun with this lot, so I'm only having a little bit of fun. So I've got Alisson there, Alexander-Arnold, Sionchu, Burn. So a bit of a difference there for the Brighton. De Bruyne still, Mount still, and I have got Madison. I just want him everywhere. And Yarmolenko has been a bit of a differential there, which is sort of not really working out. So time for him to go, I think. Vardy, great. Mane, great. I'm going to keep them. Martial, he's my little bit of difference there. So he's got me some points coming in. But I think I need to make it more fun. So I think you've given me a bit of enthusiasm there to alter my second team. Hasn't yet overtaken. It's 18,000 in the world at the moment, so it's still got some way to go to beat my main team. But I do quite like the idea of having a bit of fun with that one.
You need some Patrick Van Aanholt and some Pulisic in.
Do you know what I need? Yeah, Pulisic is definitely on my radar. I want Mount out, Pulisic. I think I've got some money in the bank in that one. And Patrick Van Aanholt, because Palace's fixtures, they go right the way up, all the way to the end of the year, are really good. And as we know, he's got a goal in him. He's got an assist in him. He's got bonus potential in him. He's got everything.
He got tackles tier 1, not this week, but last week, and he's got man of the match, I think, maybe twice. So he catches the eye as well, especially if he scores in a 1-0 win, clean sheet, he's going to get man of the match. So he has got big hauls in him. I think he's got a 20-point haul this season already.
Yeah, before we go, we have had some questions from the community, so we've mentioned some of them already, but what I'll do is I'll kind of rattle through them and get your thoughts on them. So, you can be as fast or as slow as you want. But For Reasons Unknown is a name of someone. He says, should I keep Pepe? And if not, which defender or midfielder should I bring him in for? God, someone there still with Pepe. So, what should he... Time to get rid of Pepe, is it? And if so, who for?
Yes, I think it's definitely time to get rid of him. Unless you need him if you haven't got Aubameyang and you've got these single days, it's still one to think about. However, he keeps getting benched and he doesn't even get points when he plays, really. So it might even be worth taking him out anyway. I think Jorginho is pretty much exactly the same price. Obviously, not a great game this week, but over the course of their very good games to come up, I'd expect him to get max passing bonus in every single one. So he'd be a very consistent option. Apart from him, it's the ones we've mentioned, really. I'll be looking at Pulisic. If you're going to go Liverpool, I'd certainly be looking at Robertson or Van Dijk or Trent Alexander-Arnold and just looking for their good games. If you can make that switch to a defender, that's also probably going to be a consistent source of points. So that's what I would do. Okay,
Sam asks, is KDB enough Man City attack for the next few weeks? Well, you've already touched on this. You don't think he's very good on his own at all. But yeah.
Yeah. It's always a worry to go without Man City, and there are a couple of days where you could use them as captain. So I would say yes, he is enough. I currently have Sterling, and I would prefer to have Vardy instead. But as I mentioned earlier, even Kevin De Bruyne's not getting enough points, so I would argue that you don't need any. However, I think I'm just going to go back and remind myself quickly. There is a day where, so Tuesday the 3rd of December, you've got just Palace at home to Bournemouth and then Burnley at home to City. So nearly everyone is going to be captaining a Man City player on that day. And we're probably not going to have any players from the other teams, possibly Pope. But do you want to captain Pope against City? Probably not. So I would argue you probably have to keep him until then, and then probably reassess. So I don't think they've got any individual days after that stand out.
Okay. DJ Newton, is a Leicester defensive triple up a good move? So you and your second team, you've gone for a Leicester defensive double up. But what about triple up? Good move?
Yeah, and this has often been a very lucrative thing in Sky. So many times in the past, I can remember tripling up on Watford, for example, when they used to be half decent at the back, and Southampton in the past as well, Liverpool last season. Leicester's assets are so well priced; they nearly all get bonus, and they've got great games and they're keeping clean sheets. So yeah, can't argue with that at all.
No, good move. FPL Jacket Potato. Or Potato Jacket, whichever way he wants to call himself. Back to those 3 striker slots. So many options, so little space. Are we looking to rotate? Or is there just a set and forget trio we have in mind? So we've already looked at, we've got the likes of Sterling, Aubameyang, Mane. Some people have got Salah instead, or Salah and Mane. But is there an optimal 3? Or is it best to sort of move them around fixtures?
I think it's probably best to move them around, and that's where you want to be spending most of your transfers. However, as a kind of set at the moment, I would look at definitely Mane, probably Vardy because he's just been in such good form, and then Aubameyang's kind of needed for those captains. So that would probably be my ideal front 3, with Aubameyang moving on to Sterling once City's games change and we no longer need him as captain. Would probably be my plan at the moment. However, you could argue the Rashford move's quite good. Jimenez is in good form. There are other options for sure.
I am considering Rashford in my main team now. You've got me thinking. Definitely. I think I could. It definitely looks like it needs shaking up a bit. I have ditched Sterling in my main team, so it may come back to haunt me. But I think for the moment, I'm okay with that. Finally, Paul McNulty, very good Sky player. Is Tomori a viable option? He says, even though there's no 2-for-1 potential to get him this week, for example, because he plays on the first day. So yeah, Tomori, he's a player that you're particularly keen on, I understand.
Definitely. And he's a very good player. He's doing what a good player would do, is trying to get an opportunity where he's getting that extra player in a week. So hopefully Chelsea play on the final day and you've already got your points from your original player, then you switch him out to Tomori. However, it doesn't work like that for Chelsea for a long time. And I think if you're waiting for something like that, you're probably going to be missing out. Tomori's just got everything to his game, I think. And I think in his case, he was saying maybe switching out Gilbert or Dan Burn for him. So he's obviously got some money in the bank there. I think if you're waiting for an opportunity, you're probably going to miss out on points because those players are just there to fill that gap, really. And obviously for this captain for Gilbert this week. I wouldn't have thought he's looking to bring Tomori in against Chelsea, so he's probably going to be captaining Gilbert and then asking whether I should do it. Sorry. So I would have thought, therefore, he's thinking, should I put Tomori in for Gilbert for the week after? And obviously not get that extra day. I say yes if you've got the money. He's clearly going to outscore him for me up until the wild card in February, which is probably the next time you should be looking to make moves in your defence.
It's given me another idea there. Full of advice. It's time to go. Good luck, everyone, with their Sky Game Week. Good luck having a look at those fixtures coming out. Have a look on our members area at Fantasy Football Scout. That might help with the season ticker. But also keep an eye on those single game days as well. Always important. Luke, thanks so much for joining me. And good luck for yourself with the upcoming game week. And good luck with your second team. And it's March beating the first team.
Thanks and good luck to you, Joe.